And we are going to recess out of the regular meeting immediately because we do have a public hearing regarding resolution number SMPD 16-1215, the final reading.
Okay. In April of 2010, the voters approved the Shelton Metropolitan Park District, and for several years, the Park District was in good shape because it had a taxing source that it didn't have before, that was independent of the normal Shelton government. But when the recession started, property values started dropping throughout the city, and we reached the maximum taxing levels that we could in terms of total taxes, not just from the city, but from other taxing districts, against the only certain percentage of the total of assessed value that you can tax, and we'd reached the cap. So the first year that happened, the Metropolitan Parks District was deemed to be the most junior taxing district, and so funding was taken away from it by the county. Well, actually by the law, but the county, being the administrator of the state law affecting these things, reduced the collections by quite a bit. That was 2 years ago. Last year, the county reordered that. It was, I guess, a different interpretation of how the law worked, and instead the dollars were taken against the Fireman's Pension Fund, and it was deemed to be the most junior taxing district, and then which restored some of the funding to the Metropolitan Park District. And at this point, we're not entirely sure what the impact will be into 2016. So what we've done is we've put up for, or included in the budget, the maximum that we would otherwise be allowed if that wasn't there, if that cap wasn't there, and we, at the very least, we maintain our ability to go back and collect that, to keep that taxing level once property values are restored. And it looks, based on what we're seeing in the real estate market, it looks like it will be restored next year. So we should see increases in assessed valuations, because I think that the real estate market is recovering relative to what it has. At least I'm hopeful that's the case, and it looks positive. I will say that the Metropolitan Park District is managed day to day by Mark Ziegler, and he does a very good job, very strategic in terms of dealing with this, and he's managed it very well. And so, and he's getting as much done as he can get done, given the financial constraints, which are considerable. So that's really the long and the short of it. We're going to keep doing the parks and recreation programs as well as we can, and I think things are going to start looking better as the real estate market recovers. So that's my report. I'll answer questions if you have any.
Okay, I'm assuming that we also offer public comment.
Yes.
Yes, and so has anyone from the public signed up? Or if anyone would like to speak, now is the time to sign up.
Yes.
Okay, great. So, my fellow commissioners, does anyone have any questions or comments?
None for me.
No questions for me?
Okay, so I assume we're ready for a motion to approve, or
I think
do we take action
we
on
close
this?
the public hearing first.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. All right, so no comments. The public hearing is now closed. Thanks. I'm sorry, I'm confused. I don't know if we have.
Yeah, help, Kathy.
Okay, now, with the briefing, there is a resolution, and it reflects the same amount of budget as was presented in our last hearing. There have been no changes. So staff would recommend, unless you want to do any more changes, that you would introduce and pass this resolution.
Okay. So do we have a motion?
Would you like me to read the
What?
resolution?
Just gotta read the motion first.
I would read the resolution SMPD 16-1215, a resolution of the Shelton Metropolitan Parks District adopting the budget for the year ending December 31st, 2016.
Okay, do we have a motion? to
Yeah,
pass?
I'm making a motion that we adopt the budget presented here in this resolution 16-1215 for the year ending December 31st, 2016.
I'd second that.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. If there's no further conversation, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, and have you read the consent agenda? And are we ready for a motion to pass the consent agenda?
Reading of the consent.
Why am I forgetting now?
I
Consent.
got my little cheat notes here that tells me everything to do, and she didn't get her
I
day up for her.
Consent agenda, Shelton Metropolitan Parks District minutes from the meeting of November 30th, 2015.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move we approve the consent agenda as read.
I second that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Consent agenda passes. There's no old business. There's no new business. Is there an administration report?
No,
No
Your
public comment. So the next meeting will be, I don't have that in my meeting, in my minutes either. Vicki, do you know when the next meeting is? I don't have that now.
I do not, but we will certainly get it out on the website.
Thank you, Mark. The next meeting of the Shelton Metropolitan Parks District will be January 24th at 5 o'clock. And thank you so much.
Was that 24th or 25th? 25th.
25th.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, y'all. Sorry I didn't have everything here. Okay, this meeting is now adjourned.
Very good. All right, and I now call to order the regularly scheduled City of Shelton Commission meeting. Before we say the Pledge of Allegiance, I'll make a little change to our minutes here, and that is that there's a request to amend the agenda and remove item number 2 of the commission meeting minutes from the consent agenda. And so we will do that. So that will be struck from the consent agenda. So when we approve it, item number 2 will be removed. Now, would you please,
No, I have.
oh, another, okay.
I would also like to amend the agenda to include a discussion under new business on concerns regarding the replacement of our city administrator. So we have a number of people from the public here that have some concerns about that, and I think that it would be a good idea to address those concerns tonight under new business.
Okay. Under new business. All right, now let's say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the first item on our agenda is to have our weekly commission report from us, and so Commissioner Moore.
Okay, I had a meeting earlier this afternoon with different stakeholders of the visioning process, and so we are going to be moving forward with that, and so we're just kind of putting together a committee that will serve as an advisory committee to the visioning process. So they will not be a city advisory board, but the city will be involved in that. So then I have a briefing on Wednesday. On Thursday, an employee appreciation luncheon and auction. And then Friday and Saturday, I will be watching the boat parade. And that's it for this week.
All right, Commissioner Olson?
Tomorrow I have a Mason Transit Authority Board special meeting, and Thursday I will be at the Employee Appreciation Luncheon, and that's all I have for the week.
All right, and on a Tuesday, tomorrow, I will be attending a MESCOM board meeting, and then in the evening, I'll be attending an Economic Development Council event. On Thursday, I will also be attending the employee lunch, appreciation lunch, and on Friday, I will be attending the Emergency Food and Shelter Board meeting. We meet once a year, and I will be attending that meeting on Friday. That concludes our commission reports. Next, we have an opportunity for public comment. If you have something you want to comment, this would be one of the opportunities. We will have another opportunity later, and so, and I would probably say that if we're going to talk about the administrator position under new business, that you would want to hold those comments until that period. So, but this is your general comment period. So, Patricia? Welcome back. I haven't seen you for about a year.
Oh, I've been around. Patricia Vanderhay, 111 Southeast Lutheran Place, Shelton. I'd like to make comments about the public participation plan. This is included in the city information under the City of Shelton site, under the Department of Community and Economic Development. Process mandated by the GMA, which includes the following: provide early and continuous public participation. Proposals and alternates are to be broadly disseminated. Process shall include public meetings after effective notice, provision for open discussion, communication programs, information services, and consideration of and response to public comments. Public outreach shall target residents and business owners in the City of Shelton and the Shelton Urban Growth Area, UGA. The process shall include opportunities for consultation and input from an array of stakeholders, including local, state, regional, and federal agencies and organizations. The process shall be transparent. The process shall be in adherence with approved timeline. In sum, this includes a broad range of citizen and organizations and could include any individual or an entity interested in update process. The process is intended to be inclusive, and the list of stakeholders will be referenced to assist with public outreach and help assure all interested parties are provided opportunity to be part of the discussion. We, the citizens, do not feel that the 3-minute maximum time allowance for public comment is in conformity with the spirit of the GMA requirements for adequate public participation requirements and is not in compliance with our First Amendment right of freedom of speech. We also feel that the city's response to comments and questions, both at public hearings and written submissions, are often ignored or twisted so as not to be true to what the citizen's comment or question was intended, and thus answered erroneously, ignored, or what might even be considered as lying by omission. Therefore, we, the citizens of the City of Shelton and UGA residents, ask the City of Shelton to review the mandates of the GMA and adjust their handling of public participation, whether it be as public comment, verbally, or a written submission, to conform with these mandates and to act within its spirit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Catherine Price.
Hi, Catherine Price, 603 South 9th Street. I rise to thank Mike Olson for his years of service to the City of Shelton, and I'm hopeful that he has perhaps a laundry list of items that he might like to see done before his term is completed. I was wondering if maybe the mayor would give him a few moments to tell us, the citizens, his constituents, what he might want to accomplish in these next few weeks, which are his last weeks as our commissioner. So, thank you, Mike.
Thank you very much. Next is Mr. Tom Davis.
I'll wait till the second opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Olson can speak at any time, whatever he wants to do. We have opportunity all through the meeting, so if you'd like to make a statement about something.
Yeah, I'll just say this right now. I don't really have a huge laundry list, but one of my top priorities, and I'm glad that it got on the agenda tonight, is a process to select a new city administrator. I think it's a huge deal for the city. We spent months doing the police chief, and I think that the city administrator's job is even more important. Not only does it reach into the community, but he's got to run a darn near 100-employee payroll, and, you know, it takes more than just managing people. I think that we need to really get a process started, and I'm glad that this has been brought up, and I appreciate Commissioner Moore for bringing this to the agenda. I know I'll be accused of kicking on the way out the door, but I didn't want to bring this up, and I'm glad that Commissioner Moore did, and I think this is a great place to start a conversation with that. So that is my laundry list as I head out the door. I appreciate your comment. I did what I thought was best the 4 years I was here, but evidently 800 and some people didn't feel that way, so I'm gone. I've had a great time. I appreciate the opportunity to serve the public, and I'll be around. So that's all I have to say right now on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Next on our agenda, what we'd like to do is talk about our budget. And what we're going to do is recess out of our regular meeting and open a public hearing regarding the City of Shelton's 2016 final budget. And at this time, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Kathy Byerly, and she is our Director of Financial Services.
So we got the PowerPoint queued up. Kind of need that to.
Yeah.
Okay. It's going to be a little different than the previous ones. What I'm going to, although the similar content is there, I'm really going to focus my time on the changes that occurred in the preliminary budget and the current budget. So if I skip over some slides pretty quickly, it's because I'm trying to do that. As I mentioned, the purpose of the meeting is to present the 2016 budget, but the caveat that I mentioned earlier, and the idea is to update with information that's fresh rather than repeat what we've gone over before. The economics, everybody knows, we're in trouble. We've had a mill closure, loss of 300 jobs, difficult to control costs, and given the situation with property tax, our finances are unsustainable. Solution is to crank up the economy. And to the extent that we can get the economy improved, that will really improve our ability to provide services for the city. In the meantime, what we need to do is be smart in our decisions. There's a new budget system, and I won't beat. I've covered that a lot of times, so I'm not going to cover much of that. A little bit of it is in the presentation as we go. Starting with this slide, recognizing that part of the system would be is to move money from the to have money available and accumulated within programs, not just in the general world. The commissioners approved a resolution earlier this year that allowed us to drop strategic reserves from 8.5% down to 6.375, recognizing that we probably still have the same amount of net reserves, it just would be managed within the programs instead of by the city centrally. So it's expected that we'll probably have 8.5% strategic, it just be split around a little bit. It's potential that could be done for going into 2016, but I think you want to wait and get the 2015 budget closed and see what it looks like before you'll want to do that. This is we're in trouble, and that this the first line in this slide spells it out. Expenses are going to exceed income by around $238,000. That's going to get us very close to using strategic reserves, because we have cash flow reserves, we have strategic reserves, and then we have reserves that are over and above that. And this is going to take up all of the over and above and probably get down into the strategic. And things are going to get worse before they get better unless we see improvements in the economy. And so there'll be some very difficult, challenging decisions to make in 2017, for the 2017 budget. There are also some issues that haven't been able to be resolved by this budget. We're negotiating our union contracts right now. All of our contracts are open, and we haven't got any COLAs plugged into this for 2016. We're working, trying to keep those damages to a minimum, but costs increase, including costs for wages for employees. There's quite a bit of uncertainty over the jail costs. And then one of the things that I'm not sure we fully anticipated was the number of people who are retiring. And every time somebody retires, they're leaving with somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000 or more $1,000 in a check just to pay them for accrued and saved vacation. But lately, people haven't been taking vacation as much as they might have otherwise because they got too much work because of the recession. And anyhow, we're seeing that. By the way, it's my intention to use all my vacation time before I leave, so I won't leave my employment here with the city having to write me a big check, and I encourage others to do the same. This is the decision context, that purple block on the left. That's what we spend on public safety, and everything else is in the littler blocks, and those little blocks are broken up into a lot of smaller pieces. So as the time comes for cuts, if we have to get to that, if the economy doesn't get better, then those are the difficult choices that the city will be faced with. In this slide, there's a mixture of things that are same and are underway and are new. The Franklin Street project, it's also been called the Downtown Creek Sidewalk Project. Essentially is sidewalks in and around the transit center, and they need to be new sidewalks. There's some creeks there that have, and the infrastructure needs to be replaced. And we've had a grant in place to be able to do that project for probably 12 or 13 years, if not a little longer. And we've never been able to come up with the match money as a priority to be able to do that project in front of others. And we just got a call from the state recently, or a letter, said if you don't use this money, we're taking it back. And also, by the way, any money we spent, $65,000 somewhere in there. And Greg's going to talk about this in greater detail later. But it's time to do that project. And now that we have Transportation Benefit District dollars, we've got money to put with it so we can do the project. It'll cost us a little more than the 62 to do, but it's probably worth it. And assuming the commissioners after the presentation tonight says, yeah, we need to go forward with this, then we'll put it in the budget, not this year, but next year fairly soon. In fact, there's several things that we'll probably need to reopen the budget early in the year and put other things in because we just haven't had a chance or enough information to put them in right now. The Evergreen Safe Routes, that was in the original budget, but we've been a little more planning on that, and we think we'll be able to get design done in 2016 and probably construction in 2017. It's a 100% grant, so there's no impact on the finances of the city. Transportation Benefit District, I think everyone knows, is approved, which will be a great benefit to the city. It's something that very gratifying for me that we've gone so long without having to put the kind of money that we need to into the streets, and this has given us a chance to do really good things. Part of the downtown visioning project was the striping was to reconfigure Railroad Avenue, make it 2 lanes instead of 4, make it more pedestrian friendly, And one of the ideas we had is something we could do sooner rather than later, because we don't have the considerable dollars we take, available to us right now to be able to do the project in total. Is just stripe it and see what it looks like. So when we do the striping next year, it's our intention to include that. And I think we're going to use crews to do it, so we're not putting more money into the budget to do it, but it will interfere with their ability to do other things. But I think they'll like doing it. It'll be a good project for our crews. And the overlay projects are included in the budget. Those are the ones that are paid for with real estate excise tax, and those are anyway. If not for the Transportation Benefit District, that's all we'd be doing, and it's way, way less than what we'll be able to do otherwise. The Porta Potty Program, Toby Kevin will be glad to know that we're recommending that's in the budget currently. Subject, of course, all this is subject to commission approval, and we're pulling money from reserves, regardless of whether that's strategic or otherwise. Probably we're getting close to strategic if we're not in it, as I said earlier. One of the things that we were able to do was get a grant. We're calling it from the Department of Commerce. Probably the person that should get most credit for getting it done was Senator Sheldon, who was concerned about our ability to wanted to help with the SPI application, and wanted us to be able to try to do some things to put some jobs back in the community that are going to be lost as a result of the Simpson and Olympic panel mill closures. So there was $250,000. There's a little bit of administration to pay the state for their part in doing this. And so these are projects that we've got in there to be able to do that, and they have been put into the budget. A little bit of change in the police. The chief has proposed a reorganization, and that was covered before, but we didn't have the details on it yet. Now we have them. Essentially, some months ago, our animal control officer was working, only part-time as it was. She left employment with the city, and we haven't replaced her, so there's $28,000 in costs that we'll want to move out of there. We still will have the animal shelter open, but proactive enforcement just isn't going to happen. Also, we've had 2 officers that are working in 2 different state agencies, and their salaries were substantially or largely paid. Were almost entirely or about half paid by the state agency, and then we were picking up the rest. And the chief thought that we could have better value if we were able to bring those folks back into our employment in the city, and so that's what we're doing. So we're getting, and then finally we had a person retire in the police department, administrative job. So by the time and then we're just not going to replace them. And the idea is to put emphasis on the detectives unit, which is behind on its work, and we've got lots of investigations that have been lacking because we haven't had sufficient number of people in detectives. So put 3 people in there, at least through 2016, and we can pick up the backlog in that. I think it's going to be a real benefit to the community. I'm a little worried about what happens with administration in the police department, but Darren tells me that he'll figure it out. This is not quite in the budget yet, but it's our intention to do it, and it's just one of those things that we just haven't had time to process it. Some of you may know that we're putting in a new financial accounting system, which has been very time consuming, and so that's one of the challenges with getting all the budget work done, but we can pick it up in the first of the year. We have our existing phone system is an orphan system. In other words, the company that manufactured it no longer manufactures it. The company that supplied it is no longer providing service for it. So we're dealing in the secondary market with a service provider. And when we buy replacement parts, we have to find used parts from other people that have taken their system out of service. And so we're kind of on borrowed time with that. And so what we did was our manager of that department went in and looked and found savings to the tune of, you know, $6,000 or $8,000 a year in phone bills, in additional lines, and just really went through a fine-tooth comb with it. Found quite a bit of savings in the phone bill, frankly, we can borrow the money, a little bit of money, to put in a new phone system and just do it off the savings. And those savings are accruing right now, because as soon as we found the changes, we went ahead and implemented them. So we should be able to put in a new phone system in 2016, at the very latest, early 2017, and we need it. You kind of have to have a phone. Jail costs are going to be higher than we budgeted for this year, just based on the trend that we're seeing right now. That has been adjusted in terms of what we're showing for fund balance, but it's also going to have an impact in 2016. We have some options for reducing those costs, so we haven't tried to adjust the budget to account for it yet, but it really depends on what service level we want with jail service in 2016, and we're not in position to budget for it yet because we don't know what we're going to do. And we haven't got the rate settled yet with the county either, so we've been in discussions with them and negotiating. So it's coming, and it'll be important that we have as much as we can get, but we may not be able to afford as much as we want. Abatements, there was actually, in 2015 budget, there was $160,000 that was put into that, with the assumption that we would sell properties and raise as much as $100,000. That was a bit of a stretch, but the idea was we just wouldn't spend it if we didn't raise it by selling the properties. And the properties we're talking about are properties that we've already abated and never got compensation for the abatement, and then we did a foreclosure. Take years, you know, upwards of 5 years to get that done. Or, in some cases, well, at any rate, that's the worst case situation. In one case, we were able to buy it because the property was already up for foreclosure, sold on a tax deed, and we bought it, so we were able to protect our lien against it. Now we own it. But we didn't sell any of the properties and haven't been able to. But there was also an additional $60,000 in there that we put in, and that'll carry over into 2016. And most of it will. We think it's around $50,000, maybe a little bit more, that we haven't spent this year. And abatements are very popular. These derelict houses that are around the city, and so we'll be able to do that at least for a while, it looks like. This is a little redundant from what I said before, so I'll go pretty quickly through it. Essentially, what you want to do with property tax is the strategy in today's recession, lower property value world, is you want to make sure that when you make a request for taxes that you ask for as much as you might be able to get. Because if you ask for less, that becomes your new cap, and you potentially have to use that the next year, and you'll never be able to recover that. So if you ask for as much as you would otherwise be able to get, regardless of the caps that we talked about earlier, then you protect yourself to be able to restore that later when the economy recovers and the property value gets more. At any rate, that's what's going on with that. I'm really proud of our Public Works Department employees, Greg Clark and others. Craig Gregory especially, they went through and rearranged how our support staff or our crews are organized, and saved quite a bit of money. And it's really, really good thinking, and something they kind of wanted to do for a long time, and so we just kind of let them go, and they're going to save us some money. We're not sure exactly how much at this point. They had some original ideas, and they ended up being a little bit less than that. So I don't want to give you any numbers that we have to eat later. But it was a much better way to do things, much more flexibility within the department, and actually ended up in a savings. And again, I'm very proud of the work that they did. Been through this before, the sewer utility. There's been some talk about a sewer rate rollback. There's really bad consequences for that. If it comes up for a conversation later, after the first of the year, for instance, Kathy and I will come back and give you more details if necessary. But it'd be, we're going to say it'd be a bad thing. We just wouldn't be able to pay our bills if that happened, which would be bad. The water utility, the only thing that's really changed there is Phase 2, and there's some question as to whether we would do Phase 2. And what I've suggested to the and I'm suggesting now is we wait till we get the water modeling study done. It's an independent consultant that's coming in telling us what our water system needs are, and and then take a look at that before anybody makes any decisions. And I'm just not interested in bringing that back from Public Works standpoint until we've got all of our ducks in a row and we know whether we actually need it or not. I'm proposing that we do something kind of unusual with solid waste. There is many of you know the commissioners wanted to take a look at whether we would maintain our existing in-house solid waste or whether we would contract with a private company for service. The idea is to see if we can get it done less expensively by having the private sector do it. We've had a study underway. I've had an intern working on that, a graduate student at Evergreen has been working on that project, doing a good job. The results are a little mixed. There really isn't a definitive answer that we've been able to say that, yeah, we'd save money, we wouldn't. And that report should be done within the coming weeks. But I think unless something there's in that report comes out as a revelation that I haven't seen, what I'm going to probably suggest is that we go ahead and get and invite proposals for solid waste, and at the same time turn our solid waste crews out and let them try to see what they can do for us. We've kind of had them under our thumb a little bit in terms of what they've been wanting to do in terms of reorganizing the utility. And so kind of the business model that we've got them in right now is one that we've given them, and they've been, since this has come up, they've gotten very creative and they've thought of some ways maybe saving some money. So it's all pretty preliminary, but what I'd like to see is a straight up, you put a proposal up, they'll put a proposal up, and we'll see which way gives us the best value. So anyhow, that's all I got for now, and I think, Kathy, you got anything to cover?
Yes, I just want to bring to your attention that the numbers in the final budget, you have your packets in front of you. They changed from last time. The final budget for two of the funds changed. The tourism fund, the total amount remained at $159,308, but the composition, the grants increased by $1,650, which then the fund balance decreased by $1,650, but it still held the full budget for the fund remained the same. And the second change was on the general fund. The general fund budget, it decreased by $342,000. I'm sorry. It increased by $342,000. And that's made up of, as Dave was saying in his part of the presentation, there was increase on the TBD sales tax revenue that will come in, which will be held in the fund balance until projects are looked into, of $185,000. And then we had the grant from the Department of Commerce for the mill closure items for $241,000. And in addition to that, there was a decrease in the fund balance that came over from 2015. We identified additional jail costs of about $66,000, and then the visioning plan of $18,000 needed to be reflected in the fund balance carry forward, so that reduced those other two items down to a total of $342,000. Now, in that, additionally, the fund balance did change also for the general fund because The animal control program was reduced about $29,000, which increased the fund balance. And the abatement, there was still $10,000 in the abatement program in 16 that needed to be removed. And then we included in this proposal $5,000 for the porta potty rentals, which netted out to a change in that shortfall of $34,168. So the new final budget is here for the general fund, as the full budget is $12,910,040. And the total for the tourism stayed the same, and all the remaining funds remain the same as what was presented at the last hearing. So the total budget, final budget being proposed here is $46,064,738. And just wanted to mention again, Dave mentioned it, that this budget proposal does not include the new phone system. It doesn't include additional jail costs for 2016. That will be most likely. It does not include the levy shift that's being discussed. It does not include the Downtown Creek Sidewalks project, which is the Franklin Street project. And it does not include yet the Wallace-Nealon overpass. Just wanted to be sure. These things can go in as modifications next year, or can go in between now and the end of this year, whichever is requested. And I believe that's all I have to say, other than, based on this budget, it appears that we will be using a small amount of strategic reserves as proposed in this budget. At this point, it looks to be about $12,000 based on the revenues and the expenses indicated here. I think that's all I have. So, as we come out of the hearing, if you are believe this proposal is sufficient or is good at this time, I can take direction to prepare an ordinance for next meeting. Or if you want to make more changes to it, it can continue until year end, at which time it must be passed. Okay, thank you.
I had a question. The mill closure money, did you put all that into this year's, the whole $250,000?
$241,000 is in the 16 budget, and then we put $9,000 in the 15s if we were going to get started on it. Yes. The fiscal years run from.
So part of that carries over to 2017, though, right? Because it was a
if it isn't spent, the fiscal years goes from July through June. So if we can spend it in 16 potentially, because we have part of it coming in through June of 16 and the other half through July of 16 into 17. So potentially we could get the whole project done next year. But if it isn't spent, it will carry over into the following year.
Part of it doesn't get funded until 2017.
July of 2016. It starts
So
July
we'll
of
get the second
2016.
half in July of 2016?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, get that. And then one other minor question, historic preservation. Where does that fit in here? I don't see a line item for that.
Are you talking about the money we received from the county?
Yeah.
It is there. Since there are no projects for it, it's retained in the restricted fund balance.
Thanks.
Generally, what we do is we allow the public to weigh in on this, and then we can continue our discussion on anything else that we would have to say. So at this moment, we have to be open for public testimony. If anyone would like to speak, they can't sign in on this sheet because this is your regular speaking sheet. But I think we have another sheet. Is there two under here? Public hearing. Looks like we already have Patricia Manaway wanting to speak again too. But anyone else would like to speak on the public? This is public hearing. You have to sign in on this about the budget.
Carolyn, I'm very impressed. Pleased to see you're not even walking with assistance and you're not limping. Unbelievable. Pickleball next?
Probably not.
We have one baby on there, 2.5 months after his surgery. Now, I'm impressed.
Patricia, did you want to speak on this issue? Okay, she signed up first, Marilyn, so let her go first, and then we'll let you and then Toby go.
I have some questions. You mentioned the Wallace Nealon Boulevard overpass redoing, and it's going to be paid for by whom? Hall Equities. The last, I saw a study on that several years ago, and at the time it was $28 million. I can't believe they're going to pay $28 million or more. Probably more now because it's been several years. What the last I heard was they backed out of paying anything. So is this something recent?
I don't know that information. I don't know what that overpass would cost. We probably, we don't usually answer questions, we
Well,
get back to
that's
you.
part of the public process is to find out the information. So that's one question I'd like answered. How much did it cost the city, or is it going to cost the city to take the water line out to the academy and police academy and the prison? Nobody
Well,
knows?
I believe that we could probably answer.
It's partially started, isn't it?
The water line's done.
It's done, yeah.
The water line's done.
It's out there?
Yeah,
How much did it cost?
I can't, the state patrol paid for it.
The state patrol paid for it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll check on that, okay. But we don't know for sure about when the Hall's Equity decided they were going to pay for the overpass.
We just know we're not paying for it.
Oh, that's interesting. One thing about when we get the new administrator, city administrator, I noticed there's all kinds of people, there are extra people that work under there. We've got the management assistant, city clerk, a network and system technician, confidential administrative assistant, an administrative support specialist, an administrative support assistant. I was just wondering if some of these things couldn't be combined. That seems like a lot of assistants to assist for one job. So
I used to kind of think that until I got inside the bubble, and then I realized how big and expensive government is and what it takes for manpower to track every single one of these numbers.
well, it's interesting.
So,
It would be good to have some kind of report on that. So we
yeah, I don't see a lot of people sitting around playing pickleball, no offense to pickleball, but up there or eating. donuts
Only
or-
a few can play it.
Anyway, Pat, that's your 3 minutes on that one, but did you have
Well,
any
like I
questions?
said, we're not getting adequate with our right to be in public participation, and I hope that the city takes it into account because
We
you're
work
going to hear
on
more
things
about
every
it.
day. Thank you very much. Next is, it looks like now it is Marilyn's turn.
Marilyn Vogler, 420 East Poplar. I hadn't intended to speak about the budget tonight. As you all know, probably I've spoken about it a lot of different times. I just wanted to say that it's not, to my mind, an ideal budget, but I am delighted with some of the changes that have been made. I really appreciate the city and Darren Moody working together so that we're bringing our 2 detectives back to town. I was surprised and equally delighted to find railroad striping in the budget tonight. And of course, last week we talked about the porta potties, which I think is essential, and so thank you for that. And I know next year will be a struggle, but I appreciate the changes you've made to accommodate some particular issues. Thank you.
Thank you. And now it appears that we have Toby going to come up and speak about the budget.
Thank you, Commissioners. Toby Kevin, 709 Terrace View Drive, Shelton. I also had not intended to say anything. since Marilyn mentioned the porta potty thing, I will again say thanks for struggling through at the last meeting. Certainly, speaking on behalf of the team, we labored mightily, and we're happy to see that you agree with the outcome. But I have a simple question and clarification. I'm confused about the budget. At the end of it, you mentioned there are a number of things that are not in the budget. And then at the top of the show, as they say, the total is there's a $238K shortfall. Now, if those things that are not in the budget come into the budget, does that increase the shortfall, or is the shortfall based on the assumption that they'll be in? And that concludes my remarks, and maybe you can explain.
You know, I mean, mathematics is something that I studied and it helped me in carpentry, but when it comes to this complicated of a city budget, I would rely on the professionals to answer that question. So is there a simple way to, see, everything kind of keeps coming in, and so sometimes they only give us what they have in front of them at the moment. And sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Now that's my basic idea on this, but Kathy, did you have a better way to explain that?
My answer is it depends.
Ditto. I think you were asking if that shortfall included those pieces at the end that aren't included. No, it does not. The $238,000 was a shortfall, which it has been supported by one-time monies and a little bit of strategic reserves. So that has been covered right now by those monies. The additional items that were on the list will come into play later. There's no funding for them at this time.
And back to your first comment about the porta potty experience, I do have about 100 buttons in my case-by-case jewelry store that I've offered to sell at $10 a button. That money will go back in to help reduce that $5,000 number. And Marilyn Vogler and I also have a little deal where we're going to put some money into that. But she said she would match me, but I wasn't quite sure if she really meant like $1,000 or $2,000, or if we were talking like $100. So
Buttons don't count, but I'll match your personal one.
you know that's tempting. So yeah, you bought the buttons. Did you get reimbursed? You didn't ever get reimbursed for the original cost? Oh, guess what? I'm out of time. So. All right. So, is there any more public comment concerning our budget? If there is, now is the opportunity before we discuss it and close and go into our regular meeting. This is the opportunity. So, right now, Commissioner Moore, Commissioner Olson, do you have more to add concerning this budget conversation?
I have a question about the deficit. I know we've been talking 300,000, and I'm sure Kathy explained that, but I didn't quite catch where the 62,000 came from. The 62,000 reduction came from.
Okay, I've got to find the 62,000 redemption. What?
The difference between 300,000 and 238, if I did my math correctly.
Okay, the exact amount was $272,348. That 300,000, I believe, is an approximate.
So it was
Around
just
them.
the number we were going from.
Well, the exact number was $272,348, and that changed reduced down to the $238,180. And I do have the changes here that affected that, if you'd like to hear them. We had the reduction in the animal control of $29,168, brought it down. Reduction in the abatement program of $10,000 reduced it. Of course, the 5,000 porta potty increased it. And let's see. And those three things actually caused that change to occur.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Yeah,
I'm the one that was talking the 300,000. That came from earlier estimates that we had. Things actually turned out slightly better than what we thought. And at any rate, Kathy tracks this. I rely on, I mean, I'm the guy that gets to stand up and talk about the big picture stuff, but she's the one that actually does the details. And so I stay close to her, and she tries to keep me from saying $300,000 every time she can. But at any rate, it's,
So, yeah, I'd
but
like-
it got, basically, things got a little better between the last time we talked to you and where we are now.
I like Kathy's numbers better.
all right, well, absolutely, just like everything, I'm sure none of us are totally thrilled with everything about this. The main part is being extremely in debt and extremely having to use reserves to survive. We are all very hopeful that this next year will be a prosperous year, and that we can start growing out of this hole that we're falling into. So I don't think I have any more comments to say about the budget. Thank you very much for the budget team putting it together and moving forward. And so, at this point, I guess we have enough information to make a decision on this. And so what we'll do is at this point, close the public hearing and return to our regular meeting. Okay? Now, there's no action to be taken on that. You've asked us our questions and we've given you our answers. You're going to bring back the final budget.
What I would like direction on is whether you want to make more changes to this budget this year, or you would like me to bring an ordinance reflecting this budget proposal.
I have expressed all of my concerns to you and Mr. O'Leary on all of the way I felt about it, and I believe you took those to heart, and that we have a budget that reflects as best as you could do. So I am satisfied with that.
I appreciate all the efforts. I know it's been a really long, hard process. And as you said, it's not a happy one. It's a little happier than it was. So I appreciate all the hard work, and I'm satisfied as well.
All right, are we ready for a reading of the consent agenda? I guess we are. Could we please have a reading of the consent agenda?
Consent agenda is vouchers numbered 10272 through 10313 and 10315 through 10341 in the amount of $1,300,852.63. Public message board content policy, authorize the mayor and the city administrator to sign, and an interagency agreement with the urban forestry grant, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
I second that motion.
There's a motion and a second. Any further comment or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda passes. Okay, there's no old business tonight, but because you all have been patiently waiting so long, I think I'd like to add this administrative conversation as item number 1. Is that okay with everybody in the room?
Yes.
So, it appears Commissioner Moore has something she wants to say to start this off.
Yes, especially, I think, with the economic climate right now, we are receiving a lot of concerns from the public, wondering about the process for replacing Dave. And given that it is only, it's only 6 months off, and the fact that he's going to be using up his vacation time, we know that we're going to be calling on him quite a bit to help us through this process. I have a letter that I would like to read into the record at the request of Toby Kevin. And it's to City Commission of Shelton, Washington, the subject hiring of replacement city administrator. Commissioners, the recent announcement that City Administrator Dave O'Leary will retire next year raises the question of how the process to find and hire his replacement will be accomplished. While I am not a resident of Shelton, I am the leader of a nonprofit corporation operating in the city and have a vested interest in this matter. It is well known that Shelton expects to face a number of difficult issues in the near future, including financial challenges and crumbling infrastructure, to name a couple. This mandates that the individual chosen to oversee day-to-day operations have the necessary qualifications and experience to deal with them and be a person who represents the interests of everyone who lives and does business in Shelton. Accordingly, I urge the Commission to do the following: identify and publish the process that will be followed in hiring the next city administrator, publish a detailed description of the position as it will be used in the hiring process, establish a selection committee to oversee and participate in the hiring process. This committee shall include people from outside government, including former city leaders and ordinary citizens. The foregoing 3 actions should be accomplished as quickly as possible and definitely before any formal or informal communication with a potential hiree. And then the request that this letter be read aloud and the subject be placed on the agenda for discussion at that meeting, which we did. My hope is that the Commission will see urgency in this proposal and vote on it before the end of the year. So now we know, I appreciate this, Toby, and I will say that as I have been out and about and talked to people over the last couple weeks since Dave has made his announcement, it's been a real topic of interest and concern as to what the process is. And we know that the city administrator is probably more important than any of us because we come and go. And we hope for someone who will be here with continuity, who will have the same expertise that Dave does. He went to school, he's served a lot of years, and has a lot of knowledge that is going to be difficult for us to replace. And so I agree with the letter from Toby, and I also agree with those people who have stopped me on the street and called me and voiced opinions and voiced concern over this. And for the morale of our town, I think it's important that our citizens know what the plan is, that they feel that they have some input into it, so that we will not appear to be in a vortex of guessing what's going to happen. So I have a communication from Dina Krell, who is the Education Administrator for the Association of Washington Cities. And the note says, per our conversation, here is some information that might be helpful as you seek to recruit for a new city administrator. She's attached a list of executive search firms that can contract with cities to conduct a search, which I think we probably are familiar with the firms that we've used, such as the one that we used to recruit Daryl Prockman is the company, and I think we have had a history of doing business with them. But there are other options. We can conduct an in-house search. There's a job posting recruitment service called JobNet, which is run through EWC. There's also an International City Management Association where we can get some help in creating guidelines. And then there is also a person at MRSC, and I can't remember, it's like the legal portion. And they keep a list of managers in transition, or for a pool of city managers that are maybe looking for someplace to move or who may be interested in a new position. So I don't want Dave to feel like we're pushing you out early. We don't
I
want,
appreciate that.
we don't want you to feel that way, but we also recognize the fact, or I recognize the fact that time goes by really quickly, and it doesn't always go smoothly when you're looking for an adequate replacement. And so I wanted to start this conversation, and I think some of you in the audience, besides Toby, may be here because of this. And so this is an opportunity to have this preliminary conversation.
One thing I wanted to say, kind of off in the beginning, we have a process already established, and I believe it's in our policy on what would happen under this circumstance. And that process is that the commissioners make that decision. And we have several ways to do that. What has happened in the past is that the commission has put in an interim administrator for a short period of time while they are totally investigating who they might want to put in for the 12-year period that Dave O'Leary has spent, or they go through the organization's, search. And so there is, we have a process on what we go through, but it will be the decision of the commissioners to make that final decision. And I haven't really thought about it. 6 months seems like an awful long time away. So I guess that would be the process. That we, the commissioners, would decide exactly what we're going to do. And I think the two options are that we have an interim, someone that's qualified, and it takes a lot of education to do that job. And while we put out for the big search, or we immediately put out for the big search. So as far as Toby's request to put something in place right now, we got something in place. So do we not have a policy on what the city does?
I'm not aware of one that gets to the depth that, we have a recruitment process we do for recruiting and hiring employees, but I don't think that there's a process that exists specifically for hiring a city administrator.
But it must say that the commissioners make that decision.
Oh, absolutely. It is a commission decision. It should be.
And I see it as it'll be probably something that we would look at a few months down the road. I don't know, 6 months does seem like, I don't know, when Christmas is coming, I haven't really planned on pushing Dave out quickly.
Well, no, I don't think so either.
I think that time is of the essence in this situation. 6 months is not a very long time to recruit a high-level manager. And I think that while we have a high-level manager here, we should take all advantage of what he can offer in this recruitment process. And that I don't think we should wait 2 months, 1 month, 6 months to get this process started. It is not an easy job to find someone, especially, Shelton isn't exactly the model city to want to come to. We're struggling mightily. And I think it's going to take a search that it's going to be very in-depth. I related to the search for the police chief. That was a long one. I think that took about 4 or 5 months before we finally ended up on that one. And the process that Dave used, I think, was very beneficial to the community. He got buy-in from every citizen, and every agency, and every entity here by opening it up to the public like he did. Ultimately, it was Dave's decision, not the commission's decision. And Dave, because of the importance of the decision, such as the administrator will be also, that the public process was essential. That you can't just do this, and I would hope, I'm leaving office, and I would hope that my fellow commissioners would value the public's input on this. We're not professional managers ourselves, and we need the assistance to do this. I just don't believe that we're going to have the skill set of ourselves to do this, and I think that it's going to take the current city administrator to help guide us through this at this time. And I would really like to get this process started now, not down the road. So I'm prepared to make a motion. I've been sitting here kind of writing something up, that I would move to direct the city administrator and staff to take steps to begin an applicant search for a new city administrator. This would include the city administrator write a job description and for staff to solicit bids from professional executive search firms for potential services, and also to begin immediate placement of ads with appropriate resources for the position of city administrator. And I'd like to have this happen in 2 weeks.
So let me just ask, so your idea is to get I guess, to get the process.
Yeah, but it doesn't
First
mean we
need
have to use an agency, but I think that it's important to solicit qualifications and prices to see if that's the direction the commission would go. It's not going to cost anything to solicit bids. Because
Okay.
I firmly believe that that's the way we're going to get an adequate administrator is through a professional search agency.
So, did you want to add in there the public participation, the actual process that we would use for the actual hiring?
I'm not sure at this time. I just want to get the process started of advertising for it. I'm not sure that that's something that, I don't know, I feel kind of ambivalent that I'm leaving office, so I'm trying not to do this so that it looks like I'm kicking the other two or the incoming one down the road here. I just feel real strongly that this needs to be done on a professional level and that we commissioners are not equipped to do this on our own, and that we're going to need all the assistance we can get. It's probably going to cost some money, but it's a pretty big deal. It's a pretty big bet that we're taking to get a city administrator. I just think it needs to be done properly.
I would feel more comfortable if the motion at this time included sort of a way that we would go about doing the actual hiring, like involving more people, as part of the selection process. I mean, I realize that the three commissioners will have the final, but I don't know that we necessarily want to have it just understood.
Okay, I see, sure. I can withdraw my motion and you can read yours into it, or I could amend mine.
How about if I'll
Just to add
Okay.
process, a mandatory public process.
Okay, then I would amend mine to include adding a mandatory public process to the selection. Not the decision.
No applause. Thank you.
To amend the selection. of
Robert's
candidates, But not the commissioners will make the final decision,
Okay,
but to include a public process.
okay. And then this was also, I believe, part of this discussion was also coming up quickly with a list, an actual ad that we can use when we go to solicit. It doesn't mean we have to put it in the newspapers or on the web next week, but
Yeah, I included that to direct staff and the
Okay.
city administrator
okay,
to do those.
okay, I'll second that motion.
Okay, is there any further discussion? You have a lot of people that are here that probably want to weigh in, and 3 minutes apiece, it's 7:15, but I think that before we vote on this, we probably hear from you all. Is it just, for my, because we have pretty, how many live inside the city limits? Do you have, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people, okay. 8 and probably about another 15, 20. Okay, just for my information, I'm just kind of just curious about that. If anybody wants to talk about this, I mean, we can come and sign in, and we'll. This is what the conversation is about. So, right on here. This would be where the. Yep, sign this one right here. We're done with the public hearing here. You're just, don't need your first one. Okay. Why don't you speak first, Toby, and while these people are signing in, and you can go ahead and start speaking if you want.
I'd confess that Toby Kevin, 709 Terrace View Drive, and there are those here present who probably know my middle name is Trouble. As you were making your comments earlier, Commissioners, I realized that I probably used one word that was wrong. The word that is wrong is process. What I'm lobbying for is a plan. I don't take issue with what the mayor said about who makes the decision, but I'm sorry, that is neither a process nor a plan. The plan is about who, what, when, where, and how. So if you would, consider my letter to be modified to ask for a plan. How is it going to be done? Who is going to do what, when? I think some of the things that have been said up here support that, but I think over the next week or two, it'd be a good idea to get city staff to put together a plan about what's going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll do it for you. Carolyn Ravat
Okay.
Bowles, 11 Comet Lane. I'm a former member of the school board, and when we got Dr. Apostle here, we did not wait. It took months to get this going. This is not a short process, and you really do want to look into maybe hiring a professional to find a good city administrator, unless you can figure a way to keep this guy on. I don't know. Big carrot, maybe. It's a process that the city people really need to be part of, and it's nice to be able to include them so that they have a voice. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, Eric?
Wow, this came up quick. Nobody's kicking you out the door, Dave. As we start the process to select a city administrator, I think we should also look at the possibility of, do we need one? We have a county finance commissioner, public safety, public works, competent staff, Kathy, Mike, Greg, Vicki, that can report to the commissioners. Sorry, I wrote notes. I think that they all do a great job, and I just wonder if we actually need an administrator. We could save a great deal of money if we actually handled that with our commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. All comments are fair comments here in the hall. Okay, next is Lynn Busaka.
Lynn Busaga, 612 West Burge Street in Shelton. And I am a human resource manager professional. And I looked over Toby's process here, and I think it represents good practices. And you need at least 6 months. And I am willing to volunteer to serve on a citizens committee if you decide to have that process.
Thank you. Next is Catherine Price.
Catherine Price, 603 South 9th Street, Shelton. I was kind of surprised when I moved to Shelton 15 years ago to discover that though we elect you three, then you appoint a single individual who thereafter runs the city. To me, that was surprising because he is not accountable to me. I can't fire him. I can't unelect him. I cannot censure him or recall him. Or as a citizen, he's the choice of the commissioners. And to me, that's a bit of abdicating the authority and the responsibility that we gave you guys. So I agree with him that maybe we should be looking at whether a single city administrator appointed by the commission is the best way to go. And if it is the best way to go, because it's been real successful, then we should immediately begin the search for a very competent replacement for Mr. O'Leary. And with citizen involvement especially, that would be great, because we're a little, you appointing him and he being the boss, It doesn't always feel right.
That's
Doesn't
not
always.
that's not exactly how it works, but he works for us.
Uh-huh. He works
So
for
we
you.
are the boss.
Yeah, he's not the boss.
But he seems to be the boss. My point is
Yeah, he is the
that
boss.
he's
He
the
is boss
boss.
of all the city employees,
Uh-huh.
okay, other than the commission.
Other than the commissioners.
But we are
Okay.
an equal boss with different opinions, as if you haven't noticed.
Well, I hope
We
that.
are the bosses, and sometimes we need someone like an administrator to kind of get us all herded into the right direction. So, yeah, he's the boss of the city employees, but truly we are the boss.
Well, I just really look forward to being involved in the process, and like Lynn, I would be happy to be on any citizen commission that was involved in hiring Mr. O'Leary's replacement. So, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. All right, is any other public comment? Yes, Mr. Davis. I'll let you name it. Oh, you already got it
Signed
written
in, Mayor.
No, you already signed in. There you go.
Thank you and good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight on this issue, which I think is a critical issue. Yes, we do need a city administrator. And yes, that is probably considered in some circles the fourth commissioner, and rightfully so. But I urge you to recognize that this is not a political position. This is not even an economic position. This is a highly complex public service administrative position with no political ties to any political party whilst they're doing their job. So I would recall something that you said, Mr. Mayor, a couple of years ago, a couple of years into your office. You said, wow, I didn't know it was going to be like this. I learned a lot. It's one thing to have an opinion on something from the outside, from the peanut gallery here. It's quite another to put together a public policy and then carry out that opinion to fruition where there's so much at stake. We cannot afford to have a learning curve here. We must take advantage of the fact that we have 6 months' notice. And I would agree with Commissioner Olson in the fact that when we had an opportunity to meet our new candidates for police chief, it was a wonderful opportunity. My wife and I attended those meetings. We were able to ask them questions. We were able to mingle more informally with them. And we came with probably the best police chief we could ever hope to get. Why not replicate that process or that plan once again? So why not reach our tentacles out as far as we can go and get as many applicants as we can get, and then wean that down to the people, and it's rather easy to do that, to wean them down to maybe half a dozen people who are credible and competent, and let them meet the public, and let's put everything on the table, because our future and nothing less is in the balance here. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. All right, that's all that's on this list. So, Commissioner Olson, I think you had a motion, and did you clarify that? Did you have that fine tuned?
Can we read it again?
I think we need to read it again for the record.
I move that we direct the city administrator and staff to take steps to begin an applicant search for a new city administrator. This would include the city administrator to write a job description and for staff to solicit bids from professional executive search firms for potential services. Also to begin immediate placement of ads with appropriate resources for the position of city administrator, and also to include a mandatory public process in the selection of the final candidates. And within 2 weeks also, I wanted to try to get all that done. Not the picking the candidates certainly, but so that was my motion.
And is that the motion, you second that motion?
That is the motion I'll second,
All right.
yes.
I think this is exactly probably what we're going to do anyway, but Mr. Olson made the motion, and the way it's done, I'm going to vote against it, but I think that this was what we were all planning to do anyway. But just to go on the record, I don't really like the way this came down. I didn't feel that I felt uncomfortable with, I guess, the way it was done. But that's all right, because all you need is 2 commissioners. And so, all those in favor of Commissioner Olson's parting words?
Yes,
Yeah.
aye.
Aye?
And I'm not quite out of here yet.
No, I know. So, is that- Aye. I oppose. And so it goes into the record that we have 2 commissioners for, 1 against, and that's democracy in action. Thank you. Next on the agenda is a MACECOM renewal, and it's being presented to us, it looks like Kathy Byerly again, renewal of a lease.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Tonight, I bring before you, looking for it right here, the renewal for this is actually an amendment to our existing MACECOM facilities lease that changes the rates for the services that we provide to them. This amendment already was presented to MACECOM at their board meeting, on their November 12th board meeting, and it has been approved on their side. What it does is this actually reduces the rates. It's based on actual costs from the last calendar year, and which they used less services, so the rates were able to be reduced. And this change, this decrease in revenue, has already been reflected in the proposed budget, so it's already there. So these are the new rates, and it's the rates for 2015. We continue during the year with the prior year's rates, and when we adjust them after we get all the costs from last year, everything tidied up and assessed. The decrease is approximately $7,400 a year below the prior rates. And again, it is already in the 2016 budget proposals as far as carryover from the current year. Now, due to the lateness of this amendment, if there isn't any questions, staff would recommend approval of this tonight, if possible. So, are there any questions?
Yeah, how did it decrease by so much?
It's primarily due to custodial services. If they don't need as much custodial services, the rates would be set
So
lower.
you're sort of on call or at will to
Well,
whenever they need it, or?
they go down with a schedule to clean and do minor repairs. If there isn't as many repairs, they have fewer job orders. And it did come out that they used less services last year. Could be different next year.
So what do we need to do on this? Make a motion or just concur?
Yes. Approve the amendment number 2.
I would move that we approve amendment number 2 to the MACECOM facilities lease 2013 to 2015 renewal term, effective January 1, 2015, to be approved by the City Commission.
I second that motion.
There's a motion and a second to approve the MACECOM lease. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? The lease passes. Next is administration report.
This has to do with a recently approved activity where the city was apply for a grant application through the Environmental Protection Agency. The motion to approve it was approved on a 2-to-1 vote. And the idea was to hire a consultant to package a grant, so there was no staff time committed to it. And then the consultant would be paid from the grant proceeds. After the election, I heard that from other commissioners that they, from one commissioner that voted against it, and another commissioner that was elected, that they were would not support it, recognizing that if it was unwound, the longer we took to stop it, the more it would cost, because if the consultant can't receive money from the grant proceeds, and wouldn't if the process was stopped after the first of the year, that would leave us with a bill for consultant work, and could be, tens of thousands of dollars. So I urge staff to stop the processing, but that doesn't do it entirely, because we still have a commission decision that we're going to accept the grant, even though it doesn't appear that we would after the first of the year. So Steve Goins has asked the consultant to stop work, and I understand that they have, and we'll probably get a bill for the time that they have put into it, but it won't be as high as if we let them go for another several weeks. And we stopped it about, I think, 2 weeks ago, so it would have been the better part of a month's worth of work. I think as a practical matter, based on my most recent conversation with Steve, that even if we tried to start it back up now, he probably could not, because there isn't enough time to package the grant for the grant deadline. So at any rate, I'm asking that the commission take formal action to unwind this. Otherwise, we're going to waste a lot of money. Anyway, that's staff's report. I'll answer questions if I can.
I will speak first on this. I will say that I don't believe that staff should have taken the action to stop the grant process without this communication with the commissioners. I also am really appalled that this blackmail happened to the city. It was a commission decision. No staff time, no money put out. No viable reason was given during any of our conversations when people were speaking against this, which there were a few. I'm offended. I think it was extremely short-sighted to do this. I talked to 2 people this last week who indicated they might be interested in doing something along Front Street, something in conjunction with the Roundhouse, and taking advantage of the properties that are across the street. And then when they found out that, there may be issues, but they would have to put the bill to pay that, there's like, well, no, that's too bad that the grant isn't going forward. And the second person was actually a port executive director who was concerned, and he's on the EDC committee, which spoke out against this grant. And he was suddenly concerned that, maybe that could slow down their project for developing the waterfront. I'm appalled. I'm angry. I do not agree with the city doing business this way. I think it's irresponsible. I think it is not respectful to the commission and to the way that we do business and our form of government, where we're all equals.
I would agree with everything Commissioner Moore said and add a little bit to it, folks. This is politics at its finest. When this was discussed, both Commissioner Moore and I did some research. We came back and reported our research. We had facts to document this. The one commissioner that was opposed to it, all he had was feelings, and he talked to 50 businesses, which he never produced the numbers of the business or the names of them. So his opinion and the incoming commissioner obviously have gotten together and decided that this is where it's going to go. And I agree with Dave, in all practicality, I don't want to waste citizens' money. I just feel real unfortunate that this is going to be what Shelton is going to present to its citizens. There was a news report recently that Bremerton has extensively recruited EPA to come in to do the very same thing that we were going to get a free grant to do. They want to know where their brownfields are because it increases redevelopment. To bury our heads in the sand and to not pay attention to this, we're going to lose development possibilities. You know,